Hello, and welcome to an all new episode of The Spotlight. I am one of your hosts, Kente, all the way live from Los Angeles, California, and we are here for a special episode. But before we get into that special episode, let me introduce my co host. Now, this first co host that I'm going to introduce in the black screen, uh, it's a special day for her because she is finally legal today, everybody. It is Jen's birthday.
Go, Gia.
It's amazing. It's just amazing. I mean, when I walked into the store today and they carded me, I was so excited.
I am here for it. To be carded is a privilege.
One of the reasons why we got her today was she did all her partying during the weekend, so she was nice enough to. Are you now ready? Are you sober now?
Yeah, just barely. But see, the trick to have a birthday, you're supposed to like plan a week before and basically never stop drinking. So it really just becomes one long party.
Yes,
I'm here for it.
Well, thank you so much for joining us, birthday girl. And hopefully you will not regret spending your time with us on your birthday. All right. And we're supposed to watch a movie together, right? On your birthday.
That's right. Oh my God. Thank you for reminding me with those fingernails on the chalkboard. We need that.
I'll say this real quick story. We do a show called Cinema de Fromage, which is a cinema of cheese. And actually we start our third season on Thursday. And we pick these movies pre-1990 that are cheesy, right? Mm-hmm. And so they're not supposed to be the best movies, right? So, and we watch it, review it. It's a lot of fun, right? So Jen picked this movie called Burnt Offerings, where I'll say this, no disrespect to your movie choice, but it took me like 3 sittings to get through it. So it was hard. It was a tough task, but hey, it's part of the thing, right? Some movies are great, some don't. Well, our co-host on the show is unmercifully, it's him, mainly him, never lets her live that movie down.
But okay, but in my defense, we have a whole new season. And I do have 2 new choices, so I do encourage everyone to listen because I may just top that this.
Yeah, the movie is very difficult. Actually, I showed a little bit of it in Get Vocal. Keenan watched some of it. I showed him the death scene. The
Is he still your friend now, or
I don't know. I haven't talked to Keenan since that day, so maybe he might have disowned me. So hopefully we're still cool after I showed him that. But so
the secret here is if you ever want to break up with everyone just play that movie, and I guarantee you'll never see the person again.
Pretty much.
That's horrible.
But see, so I made a declaration because I felt bad because she was getting bullied by our co-host. So I said, you know what? Every birthday, we're going to celebrate it by watching that movie. And I didn't realize that April 23rd was coming so fast. I'm starting to regret that I put that out there. So I don't know if I'm going to really, I might have to give you cash instead. But I don't know, man. I'll try to get through it. But thank you.
We'll work out the details later. So, yeah. And thank you.
All right.
That's
all right. And joining us, we have a special co-host too. You know her from our Monday show, Men and Women Talk the Mars Venus show. She's also a writer, one of the admins in the BAC writers group. It's the one and only Shannon Ford-Jefferson. How you doing?
Hi, I'm good. And happy birthday, Jen. So excited for you.
Thanks, Shannon.
Yes. So you said you had something for her. Is it now or you want to do it later or what?
Sure, why not?
Okay.
Happy birthday. Yeah.
What? You got all that build up and that was it?
You just put me on the spot. I didn't know I was going right now. Could we do it later? Like after I've drank enough water and I don't have to crack in the middle of A?
Okay. Yeah. We'll do that. All right.
Shannon, I felt it, so don't worry. I felt it. It was
You
expressed.
felt it all in your spirit, all in your Shannon. No.
Yep. Wherever that is, I absolutely felt it there.
She waited her whole life, and that's what she got. Wow, that's pretty awesome. All right, so enough playing around. Let's get to our guest. This lady is an author, and she has written a book called The God Maps. And we're so excited to have Miss Yvette Kendall on the show. How are you doing?
I'm fine. How are you?
Pretty good. Now, the way that we love to do these interviews is we like to start off with the beginning to kind of get a background, being this is your first time on the program, and then we'll work our way up to what you're currently working on. Is that cool?
Okay, that's fine.
All right. So, where are you from originally?
Chicago.
All right.
I'm from Hyde Park, where Barack Obama and Oprah and George Lucas's wife, Melanie Hobson. It's a really, really, really nice area of the south side of Chicago, right near the lakefront. So that's where I'm from. Went to Kenwood High School for a year. It's a really, popular high school there. And I just grew up on the south side near the lakefront. And that's where I'm from.
All right, and as some people may know, I know a lot of people from Chicago. My mother resides there most of the time, and my sister lives there as well, and I go there quite a bit. What was it like for you growing up there?
You know what? I grew up. My mother worked at a place called Osteopathic Hospital, and it was right across the street from my grammar school, and right 6 or 7 blocks away from the University of Chicago, where her boyfriend worked. And he would kind of babysit me after school before she got off work. And I had to go through the University of Chicago, and I would walk through the rooms and the classrooms, and they would do experiments for me, me being a kid and it entertaining me, but it kind of ignited my love for science and technology, having been exposed to that on a daily basis. So I loved it. The Chicago that we are experiencing now is such a different animal than it was. I'm 47. So back in the 70s and 80s, it just, it was just a really, really fun place to live, being so close to the lakefront and things like that. So yeah, I grew up at a really nice time.
All right. So were you one of those people at a young age that kind of knew what you wanted to do in life, or did you find out later in life?
I had no clue. I knew I wanted to run something. I always knew I wanted to run a company. It just, didn't know what that would look like. But the funny thing was, I was always winning these contests, spelling bees and poetry writing contests. And I never tied into what I'm doing now. I just had a love affair with words, but I never thought about writing them down. So I decided to be, I wanted to, be an archaeologist, to be quite frank. I really wanted to, I love the pyramids and mythology. I walked around with mythology book of Greek mythology, and I loved reading about Egypt and things like that. So that was another thing I wanted to do, was be an archaeologist. So what I'm doing now is just so far from what I thought I'll be doing. But it's funny how when God plants a seed and it grows in the dark, that you don't even notice what he's making you into until you have that epiphany one day and say, hey, let me just do this and see how it turns out. And that's kind of what happened.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I love history, and I love archaeology as well. Yeah. And it's so much mystery. We're all writers on this panel: screenwriter, Jen, novelist as well as writer, and Shannon, poet, writer, novelist too. And one thing about history that's so amazing that it just hearing the old stories and whatnot, it makes you it gives you more of an inquisitive mind, and it helps you with your own storytelling. And I was wondering though, were you someone who, you said that you didn't write when you were younger, but did you make out stories in your head? Were you a storyteller? Were you someone who did that?
I was a over exaggerator. And it's funny now, but that my story, the story that I wrote and the story that I'm telling, I get so many comments like it's so vivid. It felt like I'm there because of the exaggeration of it all. So I think it helped me, over detailing things helped me to write a better story. So I definitely, if you would ask a family member, it's like if somebody got bit by a mosquito, I had this big old story. It's like the size of a golf ball, and I'm going on and on. It's like a little mosquito bite, but I wanted them to empathize with the way whoever was feeling about this situation that happened to them.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I'm here for it.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Who did you feel like as a child was sort of your go-to author when you wanted to read something, and did it have a big influence on what you decided to write later in life?
Well, I didn't, when I was growing up, coming from the south side of Chicago in the 70s and 80s, and barely having one parent at home, reading wasn't instilled. It was kind of like, turn on the TV, don't burn the kitchen down, I'll be home. So I didn't read a lot as far as literary goes. I read a lot of poetry, like Langston Hughes. Is someone that I'm just really, really attached to. But I watched a lot of television. I never played a video game in my life. I have no idea. I didn't even play Atari. It's just like I just didn't care for stuff like that. My mother worked again at this hospital, and she worked on a floor called 4 South, and that was the crazy house, pretty much. For mentally challenged people. That's what they called it back then. And she would give them all these materials to do art with. So I became really artistic because she would give me these green clay blocks, and she would bring them home, and I would just get a butter knife and I would cut them, and I would make these little towns made out of clay, and people and cars and grocery stores, and I just would make things out of pretty much nothing. So that was what I was just grew up artistic. I was always making something, but you don't realize that's who you are when you're doing it for fun. You never think to parlay that, at least back then. Now is everybody is parlaying everything into everything. But back then you say, okay, this type of stuff you keep at home, and then you go and you get a real job, or you go to school and you do whatever you're going to do. So I was just very creative. But as far as the literary goes, I didn't have any examples of people reading books to me, or when I got to grammar school, I found out about Greek mythology, and it was just like the best thing since sliced bread. I was with all those stories, so I used to just walk around with those books, and I found out about Egypt, and that's when I fell in love with archaeology. I was like, wow, I can go dig up gold, I can go dig up these mummies and things like that. So I think that just kind of really, really stayed with me.
Awesome. Jen stole my question.
How would you classify yourself in high school? What kind of kid?
I was, ironically, I was a loner. That's number one. And number two, I was strange to them because I had my thing. I had Egyptology, I had mythology. Then I started reading books about King Arthur and the Lady in the Lake and things like that. So when you're in the South Side of Chicago and you're walking around with these books that don't conform to what we generally see as African American children doing, people kind of shied away. And the other thing was, I was, again, being from Hyde Park, you kind of do a lot of walking. You walk from your house to high school, you walk from your high school to lakefront, whatever. So you stay really, really, really fit. So I never realized that I was attractive because, you know, you're really fit, you have a really nice body, but you're a nerd. So I never fell on one side of the fence or another. I kind of like hovered in the middle. And to this day, because I wound up being an inventor too, I've filed over 42 patent pendings and patents. I would go into meetings and people would go like, how attractive women don't do these things. They don't equivocate being smart and attractive. It's somewhere they get lost. So it's been hard being an innovator and looking out of the norm of the woman pulled with her hair pulled back in a bun with the, you know, looking very astringent. So yeah, it's been interesting.
You know, so at some point you should definitely expand on that, because I have to say that this is one of the things that I think, especially young girls, young aspiring girls that are looking to do things in both from a writing perspective, but just anything artistic, they really struggle with that. So I would love and absolutely encourage you to talk more about that at some point. That's just so powerful.
Well, you know what? Trying to talk to people is hard. Not because I don't speak to them. It's like, you know, people's ears are not generally open, especially when it's something that's not salacial. Trying to get them to understand about writing, about art, about you know, if they want to be an archaeologist or whatever. Our culture is so in tune with these women being bad bitches that, you know, you can't, if you fall outside those lines, you're not desirable even to listen to. And it's unfortunate that if you don't, your package on the outside is not appealing to certain demographic, that is, they don't listen to you.
I think I still feel like that today.
No. You're bringing all the Black girl magic, so we are here for it, honey.
Yeah, that's exactly. I was just gonna say.
I'm being serious, and the funny thing is, I have an organization called FBI Rocks, which stands for Female Black Inventors Rocks, and the whole platform is to get African American girls and women into the field of innovation. You know, not necessarily entrepreneurship, that kind of goes along with it later, but a lot of women, you'll see it on Facebook, they own all these businesses and they're the boss of someone else's product. Right? That's not appealing to me. How about owning the product that you then enterprise?
Yeah.
So having that conversation with them is I fall on deaf ears, and I have a lack of support from African American women. When people tend to like my stuff, it's almost generally always a man, a Black man, almost always. So I'm going like, women tend to feel that you are going to, you know, you're honing in on their field, or you're going to take a piece of what they're doing. So it's hard to even partner in that way and say, hey, I remember years ago when I started FBI Rocks, it was literally before the Black Girls Rock phenomenon. But so I didn't change the name because they took off quicker than I did. But I found someone that was friends with the owner or whoever it was. And she said, well, they don't want to partner with you because they feel like you're riding on their name. And I said, well, let's back it up a little bit. They're talking about women in film and women in music. And they're talking about, I said, I want to have a category for Black girls and women in innovation.
Yeah.
And they wanted no parts of it. So it's hard to push something to a forefront when people consider you, you know, not I don't want to use the word threat, but again, riding on the coattails of their success. So it's really hard to get where you're trying to go.
I know. I think I told you that, but when I saw FBI Rocks, I was like, wait a minute, what's she into? Like FBI. That's the enemy there. But go ahead, Shannon.
No, I was just saying I'm here. I support whatever you're doing. I'm here for it.
Thank you.
I thought as I was reading your bio and checking up on you before we were slated to interview, I was like, oh,
yeah.
You already warmed my heart because you were in WBAC. But look, yeah, I love everything that you got going on, and that's what we need more of.
Yeah, and it's nothing should be a threat. I think everybody, there's a lot of ingredients that makes one dish. You can all coexist and bring value to one thing by what, but people just don't feel that way. So I'm still innovating, and I still have things I'm bringing to market, and they're awesome things. But when this story came about, I was sitting in my living room one day, and the idea for the story came, and I didn't want to tell anybody because I'm creating 24 hours a day. People get sick of, you made something else, you've done something else, and it's like, so when the story came, I had 12 pages that I shared with a couple of people, and they were like, wait, you have something here, just keep writing, but don't share it. And sure, as the day is long, when bigger companies start to get interested, everyone said the same thing. You got something. So I'm so happy about the story because it transcends everything about human nature, and it's wonderful.
And let's get into it. You are here primarily to talk about your novel, the God Maps, which I started reading last night. And first of all, it's very well written. What I've read so far, very detailed. A lot of I really enjoy it. Very vivid. Tell everybody kind of how you got the idea and also the process of writing it, and then also give us a synopsis.
Okay, I always say, because I've been doing innovations for so long, I don't come up with anything. I think God knows I move. I don't sit on anything. When He says something to me, I don't care what it is. I'm on it. So the notion popped in my head, and I was like, wow, that's really interesting. And I was like, and I said to myself, but I've never written a book. I can't write a book. I was like, I could probably write a story starter. And I kid you not, I started to even just write a story starter, which may be about 5 or 6 pages, and sell it and let somebody else do the heavy lifting. But He kept speaking to me. He was like, just write down what I'm telling you, write down. And it just like, some days I was writing 10 pages a day. I mean, it was like pouring out. So the idea just, it manifested. I can't say I was watching TV and I was like, oh, it sounds like, it wasn't anything like that. And the synopsis of the story is about 5 French scientists. And I don't know if anybody remembers the show Fringe. Did anybody watch Fringe? Okay, so they were French scientists, meaning that they dealt with this weird, unknown things that happen in and outside of the world and try to make sense of it. So these 5 scientists, someone asked a question of where do our souls go when we die, but they didn't mean that in an esoteric sense. They actually wanted to find the address, the latitude and longitude of heaven and hell. They wanted the physical location. So, if that wasn't daunting enough, now they have to find a way to make this work. So they devised a way and came up with a paired technology, a computer system called IDM Trace 10. And they came up with a nanite mist. And what happens is people will agree to come there and die. People that are already sick and they're in hospices and things like that, they come there and they decide to die in the lab, and they get in these special pods that are hermetically sealed. And when the doctor says that they're getting ready to pass, they basically engage a system, and the system when their soul is leaving their body, when they're dying, the system tags and on, it grasps onto their soul is a nanite mist that's, that basically adheses to the soul, and it leaves with them. So the system in the lab can track their soul wherever it goes in and outside of the known and unknown universe. So its job is to follow the soul goes, so they can eventually find out if there's a heaven, if there's a hell, and if it is, where it is. So it gets a little bit more detailed in the book, but that's the long and short of it is they are tagging and tracking souls to find out where they go when they leave the body.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's very deep, very deep. And I imagine you did a lot of research.
No, I did.
Really? That just all came from your mind. Wow.
It's magic.
You know what? I wish I could lie and say that I did a hell of a lot of research. I literally, this book is written from imagination, innovation, things I've just learned through life, things I've learned about Christianity and other religions. The only things that I looked up is if I was spelling something correctly.
Wow. Wow, that's amazing.
It feels very Isaac Asimov in scope. That's the kind of associate with Isaac Asimov.
Yeah.
Which is high praise. That's super high praise.
Yeah, I know. You know what? Someone from the New York Post, he had been there for 20 years, and I sent him some excerpts and on LinkedIn, and he said that this to him feels like the second coming of Dante. And he said that I just like I was overwhelmed because Dante has shaped what we understand, vision wise about religion to this day. So that is a really, really, really high praise. I thought, matter of fact, at some point in the book, one of the main characters is going to be traveling to outer space and have an interaction with a black hole. There's millions and billions of black holes, but I wrote the story, and after I did, I befriended an astrophysicist on LinkedIn, and I just wanted to shore up what I wrote. And I asked her, "Hey, does this happen? Does that happen? Does whatever?" And by the end of the conversation, she said, "I need to talk with you after you're done writing the book, because the technology that you use to tag and track souls is applicable to us finding other worlds and universes. So it's real life working technology that NASA can study and make into a real thing, not for souls, but for traveling beyond our known universe and reporting back information." So the fact that some astrophysicists found it reliable technology was something that I was floored about as well.
Wow. Let me find out that Yvette's been tagging souls. For real.
I got a list for you if you want to tag it.
Right. Some souls we don't want to follow because we don't.
Well, you know what, you do want it, because people, now we're getting back on theology. People generally have an understanding that there is a heaven and hell, and and some people believe that there is a limbo. And people will fight back and forth that, God never mentioned the limbo, and it's either heaven or it's hell. Then you have Muslims that believe when you're dead, you're just dead. There's no coming back. There's nowhere you're going. So all this is figured into this book with, hey, let's find out, which religion has it right. So this is another sticking point in the book that I'm sure will offend somebody somewhere, that you are finding out that what they believed all their life, may be a falsehood. And another thing that I did, I gave an understanding to allegory. Is a sci-fi understanding, but I gave understanding to allegory that we deal with religion every day, that we just accept as face value when it can have a real life explanation to it.
Wow. Oh, that's some very heady stuff.
I was just going to say, see, I can totally sort of see into those lines going all the way back to Greek mythology, because that is quintessential. Yes. And so it would have sort of forward projection of what you learned in mythology to sort of bring it into a modern day fold. That's really beautiful. I just had to comment that it's gorgeous.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. I didn't do any research because it has just been my life. It's almost like having to research writing your autobiography. You don't need to. You know what you've been through. You know what you've done. You know what you want to do, and it's just writing it down to a point where it can be digested by somebody reading it. At a point in the book, I even gave Sci-Fi, I have to keep saying that, explanation as to why you cannot look at God in his face. And it's so beautifully written. And I keep saying I'm a fan of this book. I really feel like I was outside of myself writing it. But have you ever heard or known that people that have epilepsy or they are sensitive to strobe lights? If they look at it, they'll get, go into seizures and things like that. Well, the human eye, we can only see in 2 dimensions. One eye is 2 dimension, the other eye is 2 dimension, and together it gives us a 3D image. But scientifically, we can only see in 2 dimension. So imagine God's face being in the 33rd dimension. So if we were to look at him, it would be sudden death because our brains cannot process
overwhelming
that deep of a dimension. So that's some of the scientific sci-fi answers to allegory, because they never say why you can't look at God in his face. He just said you can't, and everybody said okay, which it is what it is. But I went behind the scenes and gave something that could be processed as to why or why not in the book.
Now, this sounds like a comic book unraveling to me.
It is. It actually has a comic. It has a comic book adaptation. And the more I wrote and showed it to people, they was like, wow, this is like a graphic novel comic book. It's also like a movie or a TV show. So I wrote the book, once you read it, it's actually written like a screenplay. So, yeah.
Yes. So what was it like during the time of writing it? What was the process like, and how long did it take you?
I wrote this book in 8 months.
Wow.
Yeah, and I took 2 months off in between, like 2 weeks here, 3 weeks there, just being, taking a moment. So I really could have written it in 6 months. And I wrote it in every day. And it was, it just was calling me. It would not let me stop until I was done. And I had one person to bounce things off of, but I had to be really careful when you are inventing and creating. People will put their story in your story. So I had to be very guarded as to who I shared the story with, because, you should do this, or it needs to say this. And I said, if you feel so strongly, why don't you write your own book?
Absolutely.
Amen.
You cannot write mine. If God gave it to me, I have to write it. I can't solicit other people. So I was very careful as to who I shared it with, because this book has nothing from no one in it other than what God gave me. And I was, I was really careful about that. So I love the process. It was just me making up stuff every day. I mean, who doesn't want to do that? So it's like I wrote, and a lot of it is factual, but is sci-fi. So you get to, and then you didn't have any limitations, because when I got to talking about angels, there's really no record in the Bible of what angels look like, whether they're horrid looking or just fairly beautiful, or they're a morph of the two. So I got to play with things that God didn't talk about. So I wanted to be very careful not to change what is biblically true. I didn't alter anything the Bible said, but I did give explanation of things that were not explained.
Okay. So when the book first came out, what were the responses like?
Oh God, the reviews are just, it's staggering. I mean, I got a review the other day by a man that's a former minister, and he said this book is too well thought out not to be reality. And so when you hear things like that from a minister, it just kind of, again, not patting myself on the back, but this is a hell of a book. And it's number 1. I'm writing 3. It's going to be in a series. So I started writing volume 2 2 days after I completed volume 1.
Wow.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Wow.
Also, can I just go ahead and pat yourself on the back? Because I think you deserve
it. Absolutely.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And it's a little bit of, it gets a little racy. So I always tell people, don't buy this book and give it to your 10-year-old. Please do not.
Right.
Please do not. It is technology. This is and it will say it in the back of the book. This was my love letter to science and sci-fi.
I like that.
So it is a lot of, everywhere you turn in this book, there is some type of technology or some type of innovation. They have the campus in which this story takes place. They have cherry blossoms that were given to them as a gift, but they are innovated cherry blossoms, and they look like monarch butterflies. So they're not pink. They're the orange and the black, but they're cherry blossoms. So it's like I took every chance I got. I made something into an innovation. Even the town that is set in, is in New Hampshire, but it's a town called Shadowmore, which does not exist. So I did it on purpose, because people become very attached to your work and they'll start visiting places.
Yep.
And I didn't want to use a real city and state and have them knocking on people's doors and out there taking pictures of these different locations that I'm naming. So I was really careful about that.
Mm-hmm. All right. So do you know how this all is going to end?
Do I? Mm-hmm. I know how this story ends, and I know. Funny that you asked that. When I wrote this story, I wrote 3 pages from the beginning, and I went all the way to the end, and I wrote the last page because I already knew what it was going to be. So I have book 2. I have the beginning and what that book is. I don't know how it's going to end, but it's some phenomenal, life-altering things in this book that it really made me look at things differently. And I had a death in my family while I was writing this book, and it just made me feel like, okay, there's some more stuff happening. After this plane is over, there's another place that you need to be. And I was very, very happy about, and the odd thing, me and this person had a really, really bad relationship. And she came into a dream about a week ago. And everything that she was in life that made her such a horrible person, she was still the same person, but all that has flew away. So the person she was meant to be, the way God designed her, in happiness and peace, she was available in that medium in my dream. And it was so real, and it was so clear. I called a cousin and I said, "Oh, she's fine. I just saw her." And she said, "The funny thing, one of your other relatives had the same dream, and they said the same thing." So this book has given me an understanding about death that is not anything to be feared. I think people fear the process of death, the manner in which they die. I don't think they fear actually dying or what's happening after this.
Right.
People don't want to go through the process of dying, which is understandable, is unknown. So it has helped me a lot. It has helped me a lot. And someone told me years and years and years ago, and I didn't understand it till now. They said, write your books. If you have something to say, write a book, because your book may be the only Bible that some people read. And I didn't understand that. And I understand it now, because the book that I'm writing is going to drive people to the Bible, to either refute what I have said or to confirm it. And either way it goes, they're now connecting with God, and they're not connecting with me. They're connecting with God.
Right.
Wow.
That's awesome.
That's amazing. Wow.
Look, I'm here for it.
Yeah. So the Christians that have read the book, what do they usually say?
Well, it's such a you know what? I don't know who's a Christian and who's not.
Right. They don't leave that in the review.
Yeah, it's
I figured maybe some specifically there.
What okay, so I have a woman that is a staunch, damn near zealot for Jesus, which is fine. But when you're a zealot for anything, you don't use any common sense. And she is, if the Bible says it, that's just what it is. I'm not going to reason with it. And that's fine, but you tend to overlook and underlook a lot of things that would make your relationship with God a real relationship instead of an obligatory relationship. So when she reads the book or read the book, she was, "Oh, it's entertaining," or "That's not what I believe, but it's a good book." She has to interject that her way is the preferred method of having a relationship with God. And she asked me one day, her and a group of preachers, do I believe in prayer? And I told her, absolutely not. And I said, "But I pray every day." And she says, "Well, I don't understand." I said, "I believe in God's will. I can pray till times get better. If he don't want that for me, he's not giving it to me."
That part.
So his will is what I put my stock in. Now, do I continue to ask for things? Sure. But do I ask for things expecting him to do it because I asked him for it? Absolutely not. So in the book, I wrote that prayer is just God's preferred method of communication. That's how he talks to us, and that's how we talk to him. And I look at it as a way to communicate with God, not to siphon things I want from him.
Wow. That's really good. Wow. Now there's some, I don't know if you can talk about it, but there's some things that might be happening with this material. Is there anything, what can you talk about as far as things that may be coming with the God maps?
Well, I will say that there is some interest from some large production companies and some interest from some very well-known comic book organizations that have an interest in the work that I'm doing. I have learned working in innovation, I don't believe or say anything unless a contract has been signed.
Amen.
So right now we are in verbal status.
Okay.
So until I see a contract and possibly a check that I can cash,
Right.
yeah, we're having a lot of conversations.
Hey, yeah, they gotta back up the Brinks truck.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool though, but that's great.
That's
Though.
awesome.
That's great though. I mean, I'm excited for you because just from the part that I've read of the book and then just hearing your story, it's hard not to root for you. So
Yeah.
I want to see you do very well, and you are so far. So that's amazing. Do you have any ideas for any other books that you might want to write?
Oh my, that I'm going to write.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, I actually have about 8 or 9 other. Okay, so when I write, I don't write just the concept. I have to write the first chapter. So I have the title, I have the first chapter, and it has nothing. Everything has to do with sci-fi, but it has nothing to do with necessarily God maps. Um, I'm writing something soon about an AI presidential candidate.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing about it is this particular individual was technically born and raised in with humans and comes up in the ranks and decides to run for president. But the problem is people are concerned. Are they going to usher in the rise of the machines, or are they going to do what's best for humankind? So that's kind of the basis of how the story is going to start and kind of everything that could happen because of someone of that nature not being human but raised with humans and having empathy for humans. Will that withstand if they are technically artificial intelligence?
It sounds like the Pete Buttigieg story. That guy don't seem real.
So yeah, it's just to me the story, the concept of the story is one thing, but everything that happens in between
Mm-hmm.
the page 1 and page 400 or whatever is what you care about. So it's going to have a lot of twists and a lot of turns, and yeah, I have tons of stories that I'm going to be writing. I just kind of, because this is my first, the God Map is the first, and then it's going to be a series. I wanted people to fall in love with the work so I can have a fan base for book 2 and then book 3. And then when I do bring in something totally different, they are early adopters of my work.
Right.
Mm. Okay.
If you build it, they will come.
Yes.
Yes. Yes. How much do you put yourself into any of the characters? Is there any character that reflects you?
Oh my gosh. You know what? That's so funny that you say that, because I was talking to somebody and he was saying, "Oh my God, this character, oh my God, that character." And I was like, "Yeah, they're horrible. Yeah, they're great." And he said, "But in essence, you are all of these people." And I had to stop and kind of go, wow, yeah, I am. So there are a few characters that are real life people that I know that I've changed their name and blah, 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 but they had some type of humanistic defect that made good fodder for stories. So it's only a couple characters that are not me. So throughout the whole book, it's about 21 characters. So a couple of them are real life people, and the rest are all me. And the more I read the story, I was like, yeah, this is a part of me. Like even the nemesis, the female nemesis in the story, she says some things about God, and she stands on her word, and she does not believe him. She doesn't believe nothing he's doing or why he's doing it or if he's doing or anything. And that the more I wrote, it just fell out so freely, and I had to re-examine that I had some issues with God.
Mm.
You know, I had some issues that I didn't voice before, or I probably would have never voiced it. But you see people that put on costumes and they do things that they wouldn't naturally do. These characters are my costume. That I'm able to say these beautiful things or these horrible things about God or to God, and not have to really own it because it's really not me, but it is. And that actually gave me a lot of reflection. And I had to apologize to him. By the time I finished the book, God, I'm so sorry that I accused you of this or assumed. A lot of people have an understanding of God that's rooted in fantasy. I was watching Atlanta Housewives last weekend, and that damn Marlo was saying something to Eva, and she was like, I don't like your ball gown, and you shouldn't have wore this, and you should have, you seem the type of person that should have worn this, that, and Eva told her, she says, you are speaking to me on the fantasy of me, what you doing on Top Model, or that I'm a top model, that I'm always going to be draped and flossing, and really she's just an everyday person that wears stuff from Target. And Marlo could not understand, how could you be top model,
so down to earth,
and you're wearing flip-flops that cost $70, and Eva is saying, hey, this is who I am, your fantasy of me has nothing to do with me. So we as humans, whether we were taught this or whether we developed this or whatever, we have to eventually identify who and what God is in his actuality, and start over from there. And have that relationship with what he really is versus propaganda.
Wow, man. So it's a lot of discovery during this process.
Oh yeah.
And that's amazing. Have you ever had somebody come up to you and then be like, I know this one character, that's me, right? And it wasn't them?
You know what? The book just came out. The book just came out on the 12th. Mm-hmm. So I haven't had all these experiences as of yet. Okay. I did have a friend that was on Facebook with me, and I put up a photo of the comic book, and this particular photo had the male main character, which is the bad guy in the book, and the main female nemesis, and then the main character. And he inboxed me and he says, yeah, why does he look just like me? And I was kind of, he is the character is a tall, dark complected or dark brown complected, bald head black man with a goatee. That could be Morris Chestnut. I mean, it's just like, it's like, it's a typical look for African American men. But for some reason, he felt it was him, so it's yet to be seen what will happen with these characters, because the book is so new. But we'll see. You ask me that in 6 months, and I should have a bunch of stories to tell you.
I will. I'm going to do that for sure.
We sure are, and you should be done with it too by then too.
Yes. All right. So the ladies don't even know this, but we come to the point of the show that we affectionately call rapid fire. And the way that rapid fire works, I believe this is Shannon's first time doing rapid fire. The way it works is that we will pepper you with questions, maybe not necessarily about your book. We don't get too personal. So it'll be me, Jen, and then Shannon will keep going around and around. So are you ready for some rapid fire?
I am.
I'm here for it.
All right. So I always start off. A couple of years ago at Coachella, there was a hologram concert for the rapper Tupac. What dead artist or band would you like to see a hologram concert of?
It is Maurice White.
Yes.
Oh, okay. I love it. I love Earth, Wind & Fire. All right, go ahead, Jen.
Almost everyone knows heard Aesop's fables or some fable. What was your favorite fable?
My favorite one was of Narcissus. Do you remember that one?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay. Oh, he said he's going no. Do you want to tell the story?
No, please. This is your moment.
Okay, so Narcissus basically was a boy that fell in love with his own reflection, looking at it in a pond, and I think he stayed there forever because he fell in love with his reflection, and that's where the word actually comes from, to be a narcissist.
Mm.
Oh, yeah, just so you know, the way I heard it when my mom told it to me, well, there's a lesson in all.
Yes,
is drowned in that pond. So
is that what happened
to yourself, or you might not?
Yeah, it's like he stayed there.
Okay,
he fell in love. He fell in love with his image, and he died at that pond. He would not leave it. And,
right.
So it was a really, really interesting story. So yeah,
that's awesome.
All right, Shannon.
Okay. If you had any good advice for other little Black girls who wanted to innovate, what would it be?
I would start writing it down. That's one of my things. Write it down and make it plain. It's like it has to be real to you before it's real to someone else. And don't share. Tell your parents, and sometimes even your parents will step on your dreams. So don't share with too many people, because their interjections and their projections will make you stop what you're doing. But write it down and move in silence, and just continue to build upon it every day, every week, every month, until you feel comfortable enough to where it's, because people don't have vision. I used to work in real estate when I was in Chicago, and I can't tell you the people that could not go into a house that needed to be painted or need to be recarpeted or kind of remodeled. They couldn't see it. So if it was not completely finished, they wouldn't buy into it.
Right.
It is very much like with your dreams. That's why people don't jump in on startups and grassroots. All they see is work, and all they see is non-possibility.
Right.
So once you're done, here come all these people piling on. Well, what can I do for you? How can I help? And you really don't need help. So unfortunately, you have to make it look almost finished before you expose it. So that would be my suggestion, is to make it real for yourself and then for other people before you expose it.
Yeah, people don't get things in the abstract. That's for sure.
No, that's true.
Yeah. Okay, so what is your favorite guilty pleasure junk food?
It's so funny. I like ranch sunflower seeds with
David?
With ice. Yes, only David. With iced tea. Yeah, I keep those.
All right, Jen.
Okay. Alive or not, who's the one you could think of that you would like to eat lunch with?
Nikola Tesla.
Good one.
That's a real good one.
Yeah.
I'd pick his brain too.
Yeah.
All right. Sure.
Okay, so mine is kind of similar to that. If there was a movie being made about your life, who would you like to play you, alive or dead?
I knew you guys were going to ask this question, and I was prepared. I don't know how I knew, but I knew it was going to come up. I would like Jill Scott.
Really?
You my sister girl, because Jill Scott on any day of the week. Man,
yeah, I would like Jill Scott only because it takes a certain type of fortitude to do some of the things that you do to separate yourself from the pack. And you need someone that has that in order to endure, your story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Shout out from Jilly from Philly. I'm here for it.
All right. Where are you based out of right now?
I am in Grayson, Georgia.
Grayson, Georgia. Okay. You've been there for a while?
I just got to this side of town, but I formerly lived in Duluth. So I've been here about 4 years.
All right, well, we'll do Chicago then. We'll do Chicago, where you're from. Okay, this is the final question. Okay, you got to help a brother out. All right, a young man is taking a young lady out in your neck of the woods in Chicago, and he's going to you for advice. So set up the perfect date that he can take this young lady out on the first date. He's trying to impress her.
Okay. Oh, I hate that I don't know who this woman is.
Let's say she's a lot like yourself.
Okay, so if it was me, Hyde Park, ride or die. The first place you got to take me is to the lakefront.
Okay.
And I want to go to the point. I want to go to the house that's right at the top of the point, and I want to sit out there while the wind is blowing and the water's crashing against the rocks. And after that, again, Southside, ride or die. You have to go take me to get some Giordano's pizza.
Look.
And I'm real simple. And I need to, while we're traveling either or to or fro, you need to be playing some Donny Hathaway. You need to be playing some Peebo Bryson and LTD. And after that, I'm really like, I want to go to a warm, dark place and I want to talk. I need to know who is in my space, and I need for them to know me. And so my thing is like really intimate. It's not a bunch of money. It's like I really want to get to the heart of things, and that's my thing.
All right. So
we're not related.
if I take a young lady out on that date, if it goes well, I'll take credit for it. If it doesn't go well, but I'm sure it'll go just fine. Thank you so much for coming on this program. It was it's just amazing. I'm so glad that I had the opportunity to speak with you, and I'm looking forward to what comes next. And what we're gonna do is we have people in our chat room, and we are going to actually give out a copy of your book. All right, so if you guys are paying attention, press 1 in the chat. Press 1 in the chat.
I see one.
I did it first, so I should get it.
And of course, Shannon and Jen are excluded from this. All right.
I got a new packet.
I just have to say, if you get this book, whether you buy it or if it's a gift, please take the time and just read it. I hate when people get books, a year later. Oh, I'm on chapter 2. I'm still in the book.
All right. So everybody in the chat, there's a couple of people that didn't hit 1.
Well, Aaron, if you win, I want the book. Thank you.
All right. So let's see. Let's see.
I have a copy here with me.
Oh, wait.
Yeah, she got a hard copy. Look, sign it and everything. Sign, seal, deliver.
Yeah, I need to give me a hard copy as well.
It is so fabulous. I mean, let's see. I have I got the bag, got my.
I mean, looking all beautiful and all your gloriousness.
And I have it's just an awesome book. It really is. It's an awesome book.
All right. So we're gonna see if everybody was paying attention, and whoever puts the correct answer in the first in the chat will get the book. All right. Okay. So let's see. How many volumes will the God Maps have in total?
Oh my God!
Marisol, you the winner. All right, Marisol. Yeah, she came back in the clutch.
She was like, I got
All
this.
right, congratulations, Marisol. I will send you out a copy tomorrow. So I just need to get your email. He's like, I was paying attention. I love it. I love it.
And please review, give a review on Amazon or whatever, so people can, continue to look for it. I would appreciate it.
Yes, I have my copy and I have it on. I have it on my iPad. Hold on a second.
And you get color pictures on the ebook. The book has black and white pictures, and I hate that, but the color pictures are awesome. And I designed, just so you know, the lab. I designed that, and a lot of the other pictures in it. Oh, look how beautiful that is! I did the back cover. I did all that stuff myself.
Yeah, it's really good. Will there be an audiobook?
I've been interviewing people all day for the right voice. So yes, there will be an audiobook. It has to be
where do we interview at? I will read for you.
Shannon wants to sign up.
Only because there's a man narrating the story. So it has to be a man. And I'm looking for someone with James Avery kind of, I need, James Earl Jones kind of commanding voice. So a lot of
Let me practice. There won't even be a woman. Let me practice. I got this.
Avery Brooks. That's a great. Yeah. Well, thank you once again. And how can we get you on social media? How can we get the book? And what's next that we should be on the lookout for you? And any book signings too.
Well, I'm working on all that, but the social media, as far as the God Maps, I'm on Twitter under the God Maps. I have Twitter and Instagram, the God Maps. On Facebook, I have my Yvette Kendall Sci-Fi author on there, and then it has a business page for the God Maps, so you can reach through there. And what was the next question?
What's the next thing we should be on the lookout for?
Well, again, I have book 2 is going to be coming. Oh, the comic book. The comic book is going to be the next thing before even book 2 comes out. So I have a image. If you go to thegodmaps.com, the image of the cover of the comic book is there, so people can see it. And I have artists from Disney and some people from Marvel that's going to be doing the drawing for the comic book. So that will be the next thing I release. And then the next thing after that will be volume 2 of the God Maps. And what was the next question after that? Oh, how can we
how can we get it? And then book signings. Any book signings coming up?
Okay, so you can get the book at Amazon.com. Mm-hmm. You can actually go to my website and purchase it there as well via me through PayPal and things like that. You can go to barnesandnoble.com and purchase the hardcover book there. And book signing, I have to get enough people interested before I can set up a signing. So it probably won't be for the next few months, maybe by August, depending on how many people are really, really interested. And I would probably want to do it in Chicago.
Okay. Well, definitely in Los Angeles. Definitely in Los Angeles, hit me up because I know some great places for you to do it at. The SO1 Books, that would be a great one. I don't know if you are familiar with them. That's a great place. And I can check in Chicago. So they got
I want to do it. Well, it was just important being from Chicago, that at least be the first stop. So again, getting a following, and again, if you guys read and share your reviews and even put them on Facebook, I need to just kind of let people know that I'm out there. And I don't know, I'm so glad you said it was well written, because I really, the editor basically just put in punctuation. So I wrote this book from beginning to end. No one, changed anything around. No one added anything. So I'm glad.
Very well written.
I'm glad that you said that. So I really appreciate it.
Yeah, and it's a page turner as well. So I can't wait to tonight before I go to bed. I'm gonna
finish it.
Well, I don't know about finishing. I'm a slow reader, but no, it's a terrific book.
Just a slow reader or slow?
And tell me about the X-rated part. People have a lot to say about the X-rated part. So when you get there, let me know what your thoughts are.
I will. I might do a special video about the X-rated part. So but no, it's terrific. And so let's start off with Jen. How can people get you on social media and tell us about your website?
You can find me on social media on Bliss1, and my websites are moviesmakethemeal.com, which I am just in the process with some new recipes, and criticallabs.com.
I hope you have a recipe for Thursday too, Jen, because she makes a movie theme recipes.
I do.
She's supposed to do a theme for each movie we review, so she needs to do a rollerball. We're doing rollerball on 1975. So
I have a special recipe for rollerball. A lot of thought. I think you will be pleasantly surprised.
All right. I'm gonna make that. All right, Shannon, how can we get you on social media and all of that good stuff? And your show too. You got a show coming up on this.
Okay, so Facebook, Twitter, IG, Shannon Ford like the president, Jefferson like the president. I have 5 books on Amazon. They're all poetry. I'm working on my 6th book, Dismantling Daddy Dysfunctions, and all the men I loved after him. Summerish of this year. I'm really excited. It's about my father, of course, and all the men that I loved after him. I am going to be on Dr. Vibe's show tomorrow talking about domestic violence and human trafficking. For those that don't know, I manage a domestic violence shelter, and I am the lead for human trafficking in my county. And then I will be doing my own show starting May 5th, The Set Apart Woman, by a woman, for women, and the men who love them. So,
awesome.
That's busy. A little bit.
And you said you had something for Jen?
Oh, happy birthday to you. Cha, cha, cha. I'm done.
All that build up for that. Everybody, if you weren't here at the beginning, it's Jen's birthday today. She finally is 21 now. So we're all happy for her. She can buy alcohol without getting in trouble now. So
Jen, I'm feeling like Marilyn Monroe for you in real life.
Happy birthday.
It counts, and I really appreciate the thought. So thank you from the bottom of my heart.
You're welcome, girl. Look,
it's the thought that counts, but was there any thought? Was there any thought at all?
Listen,
of course, Shannon, for next year, I do take 20s and 50s too. So just throwing that out there for you. Next year. No.
You got it, Jen. You got it.
I'm here for it, Jen. I'll take a 20 and a 50 too.
Yeah. Well, thank you. And you can get me at Kente F on Twitter. Of course, the website is indyradio.org. That's indyradio.org. And you guys have a great rest of your week. Peace.
You too. Thank you. Good night, all.
Good night.